Mommy's Fashion Diary here live at the Barnes & Nobles in Bridgewater, New Jersey with the amazing writer Thomas. He's amazing because he has written so much positivity in this book. You guys should definitely check it out. The X Factor. It gives positive with no evil intent. Definitely you could skim through it and notice that your life changes. Definitely get a copy at Amazon or at Barnes & Nobles near you. Please check it out at mommysfashiondiary.com with an amazing review.
So first, I'd like to thank you guys all for coming, especially spending a Sunday afternoon with us. Talk a little bit about our book and what we're doing, and hopefully be able to share some information. So with that being said, in terms of business, and that's the focus of our book, is before 2008, the economy was great, everything was great, customers were coming in, people were spending money, your career was great, you were making money, and things were just frankly peachy. Then after 2008, things kind of fell to a head. You found out your job and your raises weren't as great. The stock for the company that you held, you might have lost your job. If you had a business, your business wasn't as strong. So the rules and the paradigm really changed. So with that being said, now the company that was making a ton of money wasn't making as much money. So if you were an employee, you might have gotten laid off or lost your position. If you owned a company, you probably had to shut your doors, which wasn't great, or you actually had to lay people off, which people don't want to do, but they had to. So now sales and marketing became even more important to companies and frankly their existence. Because it no longer was about just striving, it was about surviving. And I deal with companies and consult with companies every day, and you hire people, you fire people. These are their livelihoods. These are their dreams. These are these hopes. And you have to look at somebody, lay somebody off. It's really serious business. But if you're ahead of the curve and you're head of sales, I never heard anybody said, "Hey, I don't want enough sales." I've never heard that yet. But when sales go bad, what happens? You lay people off and fix people's lives. So I want to use an example to start off with. In 2010, Ferrari, which is the car that everybody knows, actually was up 26% year over year. And they sat down with the North American CEO and they said, well, why are you up when everybody's down? People are going hungry. And the difference with this Great Recession versus other recessions and depressions in the past, it actually affected the rich, just like it did the middle class and the poor. That's Giuseppe who wants to jump in. So with that being said, they sat down with the CEO, and the CEO said the recipe is simple. It came down to three things. Number one is products. Our products are second to none. If you ask somebody what the best car in the world is, you can look them dead in the eye and say Ferrari. Number two, exclusivity. It's not meant for everyone. When you see somebody pull up in a Ferrari, you say to yourself, wow, not only do they have a Ferrari, but it says something about them and their status. The third is reputation. Is that one-on-one interaction with the customer that made them different. So their formula was like that before the recession, their formula was that during the recession, and their formula was like that after the recession. So what I'll do is I'll talk a little bit about that at the end, but now we're going to talk a little bit about the X Factor selling system. So it's a book that we launched in February. And it just pretty much comes down to motivating people, frankly, to get what you want. And I kind of joke around, but it is somewhat true. With that being said, you can be able to influence people. And it sounds corny, but you're going to be able to influence them to get what you want. And I kind of put a little caution statement on there. Use the powers for good, not evil. Because it's the truth. It's the truth. You don't want anybody buying from you or doing anything for you that you don't want them to do. And it's frankly about your motivational factor and their motivational factor. So what we identified is there's 4 reasons why people buy, or there's 4 reasons why people do anything. And they're called the 4 Ps, okay? People, product, process, or price. So I'll give an example. A ring, right? You get engaged. So somebody who's people-centric, right? They say, wow, I'm going to buy a ring, and I'm going to get it from my guy. They have a relationship, they trust that person, they buy from that person to have a relationship. It's not really about price, it's not really about brand, it's not really about where they are. That's my guy, I care about people. If you care about product, which is the second P, I want a Tiffany ring. I want the blue box. I want the 2.5 carats. I want people to see see that it's Tiffany ring. I want the engraving in it, so I know if it gets lost, it can be there. They want the product and say, not only have a ring, I have a Tiffany ring. The third is the process. I know John, when he bought his ring, he just wanted to buy the ring. He didn't care where he got it from. He just wanted to get it done. That's the process. I'll just go on Blue Nile and get it done. Lastly is price. That's a person, they don't care if it's GIA certified, they don't care where it's from, they don't care if it's real. They just want the cheapest price going. Now, one of the caveats I want to let you guys know, especially if you interact with other people, especially if your income relies on other people, don't assume it's about price. Price only comes into play 25% of the time. Because here's when people buy, and here's the secret. People buy when the value exceeds the price. Whenever you buy something, you say, well, here's a price. You determine subconsciously or consciously if the value exceeds the price, right? So now if the value exceeds the price, boom, that's that affliction point where you go ahead and buy. So when you talk to people and interact with people, and this is the whole premise of our system, is when you talk to them, you identify which are the 4 Ps that motivate them, and by motivating, you stimulate that P, kind of fit your agenda in, and then you can close them on whatever you want them to close them on. So Nicole, do you have a bag?
I do.
Okay, so if you lift up your bag, please, I'm picking on you. Okay, that's a beautiful bag. So I guess you're not price-centric, obviously, because it's a Louis Vuitton bag. So just walk us through why you got that bag.
Why? Because I have 2 children, and it's big, and I do like the Louis Vuitton stuff.
So beautiful. So it is somewhat process, bigger, and it's not price, that's for sure, but it's about product, and that's okay. That's what motivates her at that given point. So I noticed, Yessenia, you have an iPhone. Why do you have an iPhone?
Because I need it for notes.
Okay.
Amazing for notes.
Beautiful. So she may be process oriented. It's easier than something else. So the worst is when, hey Felicia, the worst is when you are working with somebody who's selling to you, and you're like, hey, I need it for notes. And you're like, but the droid's cheaper. You're like, well, no, I need it for notes. No, but it's cool. Well, I need it for notes. Well, everybody's going to look at you and think you're great. No, I just need it for notes. So wouldn't it be nice if somebody was able to talk to you and be in tune with what was important to you, to extract what's important to you, help you reach that goal. Vice versa, when you talk to somebody, and my brother-in-law Al is here, and he's a county freeholder, and him as a politician, now he can't be empiric and just say, well, here's what we're going to do. But when he sits and talks to voters, say, listen, what's important to you? And then he finds what's important to that voter, and then he goes ahead and tailors his speech or his message to tailor. So if you're too broad, you're going to lose a lot of constituents, and you may not get reelected, or you may not reach your goal of hitting your constituents' agenda. So the factors. So what makes somebody purchase? What makes somebody act? Again, once they feel the value exceeds the price, and you really nail down that P, they act. They act. Again, for example, if I was product centric, and I called John, if John calls me up and says, hey, I got a guy that I'm going to buy a diamond from, and he sells it, I'm probably not going to be interested. Or if I'm product centric, because I'll get you a great deal, it's probably not going to get me to act. Why? Because I care about status. So you really got to, when you really have to influence somebody to get what you want, and this goes for anything. That's what we're finding out. Probably about 40% of our sales are non-salespeople. Why? Because whether you're trying to get a 2-year-old going to the potty, right? And you talk about that in your mommy blog. Whether I'm trying to negotiate getting out for a poker night, or frankly trying to land a multi-million-dollar deal, it's all the same principle, and it all comes down to those 4 Ps. So it's a 4-step process. Just pretty much, again, you'll see in the book. Just pretty opening up, having an engaging conversation, identifying what's important, stimulating that, and then frankly closing for the business or closing for the sale. So we talked about the 4 Ps and why people buy already. Okay, decoy marketing, this is one of my favorites, okay? So it's a concept we talk about in the book, and we use an example of 3 watches. So let's just say there was a watch for sale, let's say it's $200. Simple watch, regular hands, right? Then about $550, you see another watch with simple hands, but with a time in France, a tachometer, all this fancy stuff, and that's about $550. But then there's a third watch for $3,000. But it doesn't look fancy, it looks like the first watch. Like, well, why would I buy that watch is $3,000? I'll buy the watch in the middle. Meanwhile, the watch all the way to the end is not in the back, they don't carry it, and it's just there for one reason, to be a decoy. So what it does is it gets your average sale to go from $250 to $550. For example, restaurants, right? So you look at the restaurant, you see a $14 Rosemount bottle, which is first on the list, but then you go all the way down and you see that 3,000 bottle Chateau Latour. What does that do? It makes you look at what? The middle. So just by virtue of having that $3,000 bottle, which they don't even have, if it is, it probably tastes like vinegar, they get you to go down to the middle and you spend about $20 more per bottle. Number 2, and this is my close second in terms of favorite, the oral legitimacy. I always use an example of the husband and wife to go buy a washer and dryer. And I just move, but for the life of me, I don't even know what a washer and dryer costs. It could be like $200 or $2,000. It's almost like a water cooler. Is that $17 or $7? You don't know the price of it. Or at least I don't know. So the husband and wife go to get a washer and dryer, and there's a gentleman there with a really big earpiece. And the wife goes, how much, for the washer and dryer? So he goes in the back, hey Johnny, how much for the washer and dryer? He goes, $1,200. He goes, huh? $1,200. So he looks at the couple and goes, that's $600. Now the wife is elbowing the husband, say, buy it, buy it, buy it, and they walk away with the $600 in appliances. He wants a $200 set because she thought he couldn't hear, and because that voice in the back yelled, it gave that aura of legitimacy. And they increased the value, not because they increased the value in a true way, they increased the value because they gave the aura. Another example is car sales. How many times you go to buy a car and you go in the back and they say, well, I need to talk to my manager. I can't knock it off. I can't knock anything off. You want $2,000 off the car? I can't knock anything more off. They go in the back and the guy talks about the news, the weather, the sports, talks about whatever, he comes back, he says, and the manager comes in and leans over your shoulder and goes, well, we can knock $1,000 off, but I'm the manager, and here's our sheet, and then blah, blah, blah. That sheet and that manager coming out is a continuation of the oral legitimacy. Now, beware of that when you're buying, but frankly, use that when you're selling, okay? So, for example, we try to land gigs. And we, say, hey, Tom, the sales expert is great and everything, but $100 million in goods and services, which is true. And he was just recently on Fox Business. I was on once or twice, which doesn't hurt, and I'm building up my credentials. But the fact that it was on Fox allows me to offer more. Now, I could have a crappy book, right? So, for example, people always say, well, what makes you so special? Well, we wrote a book. I'm like, oh, okay. Or John may say, my buddy, he may say, well, why don't you try Tom and his consulting services? Well, what makes him so special? Well, he has a book. Oh, okay. Well, the book could suck. The book could be about anything. But the fact that you have a book, what gives you that aura of legitimacy? So be aware of it as a consumer, but use it for when you sell.
The book's great.
Yeah, the book's great. So when you sell, and then again, whether you're Al in advertising, Dan has a media company, Yessenia does great online stuff. There's different ways you can sell to kind of get your business going. You can hire salespeople. It's very expensive, and we're very crazy, but we perform when we're good. Advertising mediums changed, right? So for example, hey, welcome. Advertising mediums changed, and right in front, you guys can sit in front. So advertising mediums changed, and nowadays we can sit here and I can take a photo from my phone. Is anybody against me taking a photo? Anybody mind?
Hi, how are you?
It's okay, don't be shy, but I'm gonna take a photo from my phone. Okay. Okay, so now when I send this out via Twitter, via Instagram, whether you send that via Yessenia's blog, reach 100,000 people like that. 10 years ago, if you said to me, I want to reach 100,000 people, I would have charged you $1,000 bill and would have looked you straight in the face and said, it's fine. Now, I can just now reach 100,000 people for absolutely free, for no cost, other than taking a photo. So the mediums have changed in terms of advertising, and you have to acknowledge that when you're in business. Even social, you have to look out for your brand and social branding. For example, my brother-in-law, again, he's a county freeholder, so he, for example, he's on Facebook and maybe Twitter and some other stuff. You always have to be cognizant of your brand. Why? If you do some stupid things, it may hurt your brand, but if you do some great things, it might help your brand. So right off the bat, the mediums have changed. Public relations, I'm a huge fan of PR. If you can really nail down PR and it can do it at a lesser expense, because it gets very expensive, it's not just about being on TV. For example, and hopefully we got the bid, but we donated some services to a fundraiser yesterday, and it's pretty sad. A 38-year-old woman with a 10-year-old child has stage 4 pancreatic cancer. So although we didn't donate for PR purposes, we really donated because we want to help people out, and we donated our services, but it is a form of PR. I'm not suggesting you try to piggyback off somebody's misery, but if you could really help somebody, if you gain PR and goodwill, fantastic, but don't do it for that reason. But there is a way to gain PR in an appropriate, respectable fashion that's consistent with your brand. The internet we talked about, again, it's a particular medium that you use. Loyalty, customer service, all that comes into play. And again, at the end of the day, it's about your brand and what you're looking to accelerate your brand to the next level. All right, so whenever you look at not just numbers from sales perspective, but how well you're doing, right? So for example, Joel, you work in a hospital, right? And it's all about the KPIs and the indicators and that kind of stuff. So how do you know if you're doing a good job?
People come back.
Okay. To the hospital?
Well, yeah.
Well, they have to come back. But I'm saying, but what do they measure you on? Like, well, how do you know if you're doing a good job? Or do you know if you're doing a good job? I don't know.
There's numbers at the end of the year or at the quarter.
Okay, usually hospitals have metrics in place to show how well they're doing. Al and Phyllis are in the insurance business. There's numbers upon numbers upon numbers to show how well you're doing. But don't ever get caught just in performance, okay? Now, performance is just simply an indicator or a measure of how well you're doing, right? If you're sick and you're a doctor, let's say you're a doctor and somebody's sick, you don't treat the thermometer, you treat the patient. So whenever your numbers are not where they want to be, whether it be your income, whether it be your social standing, whether it be your business, whether it be even to your employer. If you're not doing a great job, ask your employer, what do I need to do to do better? What numbers do you want to see? What metrics do you want to see in order to succeed? And you'll get there. Know how to get results. And the third part is, I'm kind of giving you the secret of success, how to fix underperformance, okay? I can do this little formula, and when I do seminars, it's a little bit more elaborate. But if you want the secret to success, it's 3 points. DG, CA, and EA. DG is your desired goal, not a realistic goal, your desired goal. If you want to make $1, try to make 10. If you want to make 100, try to make 1,000. Always go much higher to find out what your true desired goal is. Number 2, CA is consistent or congruent actions, right? So for example, if I say, well, I want to be a motivational speaker, I want to kind of get to the next level, then I need to make sure I work my butt off 11 hours a day, 12 to 15 hours a day to get to that point, because otherwise if I'm home, I'm hanging out, I'm not doing work, it's not consistent with my actions. The other day I was with somebody and they said, well, I need to lose 20 pounds, and I'm like, great, so do I, so let's talk. And then we're saying, hey, then the next like 20 minutes later, he's like, oh, why don't we go to Five Guys and get a burger and fries? Because his desired goal is to lose weight, but his actions are not consistent or congruent with that. I know it's simple, but execution is the hardest part. Lastly is EA, is excellence always. Whether you have a blog, whether you're selling, whether you're in politics, whether you're a father, whether you're a mother, whatever you decide to do, try to be excellent in what you do all the time, because then the results will follow. And that's a formula to really fix how if you're underperforming. And by the way, this is not in the book, that's on me. Okay, what people are saying about the book, and we have like 2 CEOs up there. One was a reality celebrity. There's some really great people that check out, that caught the book. We launched in February 2013. We hit #1 on Amazon for the first 30 days, and 90 days is a bigger deal because a lot of books out there. We're doing kind of a relaunch for the book in August, and the book has done very well so far, and we've been very fortunate. But it's not about me, it's about you guys and your X factor. And by getting this book and really in this book and really adopting the principles, you're going to be able to influence anybody in any situation. People may say money's not important, and I'm not saying it's not going to buy you happiness. That's absolute. It's not going to buy happiness, but it does make things easier to put yourself. I remember Al taught me very early on, and I was very fortunate to grow up around him and with him, is you got to put yourself in a position to do great things. And if you have a good financial stability for you and your family, you'll be in a position to do great things. It's just the reality of it. So by reading this book, and I've coached representatives, and this is documented, that were making $100,000 a year, and I coached them, they were making $400,000 a year. In the sales game, the big deal is to get on stage, which is the awards. I even forgot how many people I sent on stage, just by virtue of teaching them my secret sauce. So you have 2 opportunities. One is to say, great, I came to support Tom, go home and have a nice day, and that's great, we appreciate it. Or number 2, read and hopefully buy the book today, and then adopt the principles. And if you read the book, get another copy and give it to a friend. It'll give them the gift of success. The best thing you can do is what? Put people in a position to succeed. And that's the X Factor selling system. So.